In 1789, the French state was facing total financial and social bankruptcy. Decades of expensive foreign wars and an archaic, regressive tax system had drained the treasury. Yet the absolute monarchy maintained a highly insulated lifestyle of extreme luxury. That insulation shattered on July 14th. Regular citizens of Paris, exhausted by famine and economic ruin, violently forced their way into the political arena by storming the Bastille Armory. The fortress was a massive, looming symbol of royal authority. Yet when the insurgents finally broke through the defenses, they found a nearly empty building holding exactly 7 prisoners. The low prisoner count didn't matter. Capturing the physical key to the fortress and dismantling it proved the king's monopoly on force had been broken by the people. Taking down a monarchy is very different from replacing it. The sudden collapse of the absolute state left a terrifying void, and millions of people required a new framework for how human society should function. To fill that void, the new National Assembly drafted a blueprint for a perfect society. They called it the Declaration of the Rights of Man and of the Citizen. The text laid out radical promises for the 18th century. Men are born and remain free and equal. The nation itself is the only source of sovereignty, and the entire purpose of government is to protect human liberty. On parchment, the logic was flawless. Out on the streets, the reality was highly unstable. Famine persisted, political factions formed armed militias, and the country braced for invasion by foreign empires, terrified of the revolution spreading across their borders. How do you guarantee perfect universal equality when your country is actively tearing itself apart? This timeline charts the rapid escalation of the French government. What started as an attempt at a constitutional monarchy in 1789 quickly accelerated into a republic, and by 1793, King Louis XVI was executed by guillotine. The state determined that protecting this fragile new equality required eliminating anyone suspected of opposing it. Tens of thousands of citizens were arrested and executed in a period of intense violence known as the Reign of Terror. By 1794, the architects of the terror were themselves executed. A traumatized nation sought stability, leading to the creation of a 5-man governing committee in 1795 called the Directory. The Directory offered survival, but at the cost of the revolution's original ideals. It was politically weak, it was highly corrupt, and quickly lost public faith by prioritizing the wealth of a few over the rights of the many. Forcing a political utopia through state-sponsored violence did not produce a perfect society. It left France exhausted, politically fractured, and desperate for effective leadership. Meanwhile, across the Atlantic in the French Caribbean, the reality of the revolution was being tested in the brutal sugar colonies of Saint-Domingue. A formerly enslaved man named Toussaint Louverture read the Declaration of the Rights of Man. He saw clearly that the French Republic was hypocritically withholding those supposedly universal rights from hundreds of thousands of enslaved laborers. Louverture weaponized France's own Enlightenment philosophy against them. He organized a massive rebellion, defeating European empires to lead the first successful slave revolt in recorded history. This flowchart illustrates the trap Louverture found himself in. To protect his people's new liberty, the colony needed economic survival. That required sugar exports, which led him to institute harsh, militarized labor laws to force citizens back onto the plantations. Across 2 completely different continents, a grim pattern emerged. In both France and Saint-Domingue, the attempt to secure and maintain the high ideals of the revolution seemingly demanded strict authoritarian control. Back in France, the year is 1799. After a decade of riots, executions, and economic instability, the French public was psychologically and economically worn out. The corrupt and ineffective Directory had lost all public support, creating a massive power vacuum at the very top of the government. Enter Napoleon Bonaparte. At this moment, he was a highly opportunistic military general, returning as a hero from successful campaigns in Italy. Napoleon was born into a relatively poor Corsican family. He reached the rank of general only because the revolution had destroyed the old aristocratic class barriers, replacing them with a meritocracy that favored talent over birthright. A traumatized nation is psychologically vulnerable. When faced with endless chaos, a populace will often willingly hand over their hard-won freedoms in exchange for the promise of a strong man's stability. Napoleon used that stability to seize absolute control. In 1804, he betrayed the revolution's roots by crowning himself Emperor of France. He established the Napoleonic Code to permanently lock in social gains, guaranteeing property rights and equality before the law for male citizens. But this equality came at a severe cost. He dismantled democratic institutions, restricted the press, and catastrophically attempted to reinstate slavery. Dismantling a corrupt system provides no guarantee for what replaces it. Without resilient democratic institutions, the vacuum left by a fallen tyrant is almost always filled by a successor.